Hello, this is group for BN209 software engineering. Today we'll be analysing our assignment 2 on our airline booking system. The SRS allows users to be able to book their trips easily and efficiently with the airline, whilst also allowing extra benefits for those who seek more premium experience. This is through the UML diagram, but this program also allows customers to choose where they want to travel in the world and what accessibilities they need. This program also caters to people who have a physical or intellectual disability. Choosing our program will allow customers to have a less stressful process when booking their holidays and airlines.
Thank you for the warm introduction, Cameron. As we can see here, the startup function of the flight reservation system is undertaken by a sole actor, being the customer. This is dictated in the use case system on the left. These, in turn, include the possible outcomes of correction. Utilizing the login function, we see the use of the authentication and authorization methods. These in turn include the possible outcomes of these functions being the successful or unsuccessful verification login, in which case the extension of login reattempts can be made, as well as the inclusion of system level access and privilege escalation allocation specifications. Moving on to the next slide. The browsing feature is again enabled through the action of the customer as identified, utilizing the browsing function to identify their desired flight. This function is extended upon through the ability to enable the one-way and both-way flight criteria. As we can see, it appears to get a little more complicated with the results included in various display methods. However, in reality, all that is being depicted here is simply the demand for all three display requirements to be included for both function extensions. Finally, we have the booking mechanism actioned by the customer, but verified by the system. The customer confirms the flight details, which includes the payment processing requirements, allowing the successful booking notification to be included and payment reattempt extensions to be executed for failed payments. Additionally, details of the flight may be edited as a result of the extended functions of flight confirmation.
And now looking at the diagram on the right, we will be looking at sequence diagrams. So the first system sequence diagram we have is logging in. It simply includes three lifelines, the big boxes at the top, and starting at the home page, it allows the user to put in the URL. They either A, put the URL in and they're able to proceed, or they put in the incorrect one and it comes up with an error message. If they are successful, they move on to the user login page where a lot more options open up to them. They can either A, log in and they are successful, they're pushed straight to the input store, be unsuccessful and disconnect the session, or alternatively, they can try to log in, fail, be unsuccessful, but they may attempt again. They may either get the password correct or they can fail, restart it, and they can proceed to the next store. Moving on to the next slide. And in this next system sequence, we have the flight reservation. Now, this one's a bit more complex than the last one, including 5 lifelines, which would be customer, booking, flight, customer database, and reservation. Now, looking at the first one, customer, there is quite a lot going in here. It's similar to the last login one, where it starts off with allowing a user to either log in or not. If they are able to log in, it allows them to put their details in, where the system will resend a message confirming their details. And then from there, they're able to select the flight details they have chosen, which will then be displayed back to them. Now, it's at this stage that each primary point is basically sent to the other 4 lifelines. So looking at booking, which is the main bulk, it sends the message to flight, where a flight is basically detected under the title that somebody has chosen. It then goes down to customer database, where essentially a customer is allowed to apply their check-in and they're able to confirm their login as stated. It will also enter in the passenger info for the flight to know in advance. And then finally, it will go straight to the reservation, where the reservation is directly made for the reservation to be done. Moving on.
Here we see two swim lane diagrams. On the left is a swim lane diagram of the use case of a customer logging into their account. As it starts off, they attempt to log in and input their username and password. Depending on whether the input is correct or incorrect, they can proceed ahead and be able to access their account, or they will be denied where they'll have to re-input their username and password. On the right is a browsing flight swim lane diagram, where it starts with the user choosing a flight that they desire. It starts off with them deciding whether they would rather a one-way flight or a return flight. If either way, if they decide on a one-way or a return flight, it will show them a list of all the departure times available. And once they, excuse me, I meant destination. Once they have chosen this destination, it will then show a list of departure and arrival times. Once the customer has decided the departure and arrival time that they prefer, it will then move on to us, showing the customer how many seats are available on the flights that they have chosen. Once the customer has chosen the seat that they have desired, they will be able to confirm their purchase. Moving on.
So the second part here, we talk about the storyboards, and these are based off the swim lanes previously discussed by Ethan. We've got the first instance here where the storyboards are created for the user interface of the selected use cases. So for instance, the use case that we've used so far was the login swim lane, and that was the use case activity that we are basing it off. To begin, the user will enter a page similar to what's seen on the left-hand side of the screen. It'll be a generic kind of login portal where users can input their credentials and attempt to gain access into the web page, the booking system, an airline sort of reservation service. Once the user does this, they have the ability to attempt to log in. Now, this can either be granted or denied. And if we go to the next slide, we can see that authentication could not be verified. So this results in a failed login attempt. Now, this will generally respond with a invalid username or password, and it'll prompt the user to try again. When the user is successful at logging in, they are directed to the homepage of the website, and they have access to various links and booking credentials. So these UI sort of designs are really important to troubleshoot any potential problems that the website could encounter in the future. And it saves time and money generally when problems are eradicated at this stage of development rather than down the track. But as UI increases, it continually changes and is an evolving process. So each time something changes, new designs are created. And then the next slides for the other people.
Microphone. Next, the user requirement verification, the SRS and URS will be run in Python, where users will be able to access flights and accommodations through their booking system. The verification of the booking flight airline system has many different functional and non-functional dependency requirements. These include, for functional, a user selects booking. They will be able to select this type of booking, whether it be flights, accommodation, or car rental. The way we're able to verify is that the program response with the customer input gives a correct response to the system with the existing information of the user. Secondly, a user selects hotels and bundles and selects travel insurance and adds it to the cart. The system verification will allow the system to properly select their products and add it to their cart. Will calculate the orders and be ready for processing. Last, the system will also be able to give users a verification of their order. This will either be a verification through email or text of payment received with a verification code being sent. Non-functional requirements, a user puts in their credit card credentials. The system will then process their payment according to them and give them an ID number. The response time, the verification of the response time, the system will be able to respond straight away when an action is placed on the user. When the user executes an action, the system is able to process it quickly and correctly. Every page will be visible for the user between 3 to 5 seconds, depending on latency. Reliability, checking the verification process of reliability is checking the system is reliable to cope under high workloads of users. The system must be able to cater for a high volume of users at one time and able to process multiple requests at once. The server won't crash under high workload and will consistently load every 5 seconds. Lastly, storage requirements. The system must be able to properly store data in the correct servers.
Yep, so the next part of this would be the testing and acceptance criteria for our software. So we'll be talking about these 5 different steps within that process of using the software. So software acceptance criteria for account creation will be A, the user can access the account creation page. B, the user can input their information correctly into the given fields. C, given the fields are filled correctly, the account gets created and using the given information to create a login for that user. And D, if the input is incorrect, the user is prompted to try and fill these information spots again. For the login acceptance criteria A will be the customer can access the login page. B, the customer can input their login information. C, given successful authentication, the user is redirected to the services of the software so they can browse their flights and whatnot. And D, if the account verification was unsuccessful, the customer is prompted to try inputting their information again. Flight searching software acceptance criteria will be the customer can access the browse flight section. The customer can input the query to search for a flight. Upon customer entering a search, which is C, they will receive the correct information based on their query. And D, the customer can then interact with the flight overview to get more information. And then flight booking acceptance. The acceptance for that will be A, the customer can select a flight. B, the customer can select any extras they want and how many people they want to add to the flight before the payment. C, upon clicking the book button, they are redirected to a secure server for payment. D, the user can complete payment on the service. And then E, upon completing payment service, the user is redirected back to the main page so they can view that information. And then the last one will be account editing software acceptance, which will be the user has access to the account page, which is A. B, the user has privilege to edit the account details. C, user can change the necessary fields. D, the user can click save changes and the system will make those changes to the server. And then E, the user can see those changes on the page. And that's all the acceptance and testing criteria.
Thank you for listening to our presentation today. I hope it was informative about the project that we have been working on. Thank you.